Hello, this is my TikTok live. I was told that you can incorporate people, guests, I suppose. So I've never done that particular integration or whatever, but I'm curious. I want to see what that's about. Anyway, what is up on this very rainy, Monday? Jeez, Monday afternoon live. What is up? It's raining. I love it. It's crazy to start the year with this much rain, but anybody want to chat? OC forever. You know what I learned is that Orange County was originally part of Los Angeles, which always sort of tickles me because there's that so-called orange curtain. And I think that the separation of OC and LA is pretty distinct, but it was part of LA, so it's dope. Hilda, I am in Studio City, by the way. And this is Evan Lovett with LA in a minute. Let's get into it. Yes, gas bill. I thought that was important because I was pissed off. I was literally like $300. Even when it's 65, I was annoyed. And then it was 300. So I had to do research on that thing, man. It's pretty serious. So, I mean, I don't know. So listen, anybody who's watched, I've never tried to incorporate this, but I was told maybe that I could like have people on or do guests or something like that. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. Because I want to see what that's like. I heard that's pretty cool. I think that would be fun. But going back to this rain, which is kind of nuts. Again, it's been raining like all year, right? And I love the rain. I always root for the rain, but this is a lot. This reminded me of that El Nino year in like 1992. I remember going outside. If anybody remembers Isoplex in Northridge, it was like the first skate rink I ever knew of. And this is when the Kings got Gretzky, so kids were getting into hockey. I was going outside because I had like my pen pal from Maine. I had a pen pal from Maine. This is 7th grade. Was in town, and we were going to like meet at Isoplex. And I go outside, and it was the first time I ever seen like the street flooded. And I was born and raised in Sepulveda, which is now North Hills, which is like the flat middle of the valley. And the rain was straight up over the curb and like obviously not a flood like hurricane style. But for Los Angeles, it was pretty nuts. I'm not saying it's going to get there, but from what I'm hearing, we're having some serious rain coming up. What's up, Ricky, with the Ray-Bans shout out? That's pretty funny. Somebody asked me today about the Ray-Bans. S. Blas Sierra, you are welcome for the great info. I love getting the info. It's fun. Anybody that has suggestions, keep them coming. Everything I look into is just super interesting. It's a ton of fun. Does anybody want to do this guest thing? Again, I don't want to keep pushing it if I don't need to or have to. But somebody told me that it's like a really cool thing to do. I would love to do it. Who said Evan for mayor? I'll tell you guys something for real. That was Big Cookie Too Hot. This is the truth, all right? I wanted to get into politics at one point in my life. I actually lived in Washington, D.C. for a summer. My girlfriend at the time was interning at the Department of Justice. So I was like, yeah, let's see what's up. Politics, the thought of being the mayor would be awesome. When I sat down with Karen Bass, and I sat down with Rick Caruso, I'm like, look, they're just normal people like anybody else. But at least you want somebody who cares about L.A. That would be a fun thing. Let's just put it that way. Like, politics is crazy, but I've always loved LA so much. I don't know what mayor entails. I'm kind of speaking out of my beep right now. Sandy Art, love you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. What do I do for a living? Great question. So I'm in internet advertising. Been in that industry for 20 years. It's flexible. It's fun. My company is great. It's more interesting than a normal 9 to 5. And luckily, I was in there early enough to be able to make a pretty decent career out of it. Still going. Still work full-time, 9 to 5, trying to get LA in the minute in my free time, like lunch break right now, you know, that kind of stuff. Mother of Wednesday, need your own TV show? That would be dope. Please make it happen if you can. I would love that because I would love to do that full-time. Good Time 69. What did I major in at UCLA? It's funny. I majored in sociology, which I know is some people might not consider that the most demanding major, and they're right. I went in as an economics major, but the classes were at 8 a.m. and I wasn't going to do it. So I went to Soch, and believe it or not, in Sociology 101, I was introduced to Mike Davis, City of Quartz. It was mandatory reading. And that book, I mean, I hate to sound cliche, but it kind of shaped the way I think about and look at Los Angeles. And yeah, I owe that to sociology. So there you go. So the degree was put to good use, I guess. LA. Highland Park, Joe, I want to hear about Highland Park. I'll tell you why. That's one of the most like requested communities. But it's very polarizing. Gentrification versus what was real there. I mean, I guess that's kind of the epicenter. I know it's coming up. I know it's cool. I've been over there a few times recently. I'd like to know your guys' absolute honest opinion on it. And gentrification as a whole. This kind of came up recently with my gondola episode. The Dodger Stadium gondola, in theory, is coming in before the Olympics in 2028. Now, the opposition says gentrification, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I really want to know, anybody who is aware, has a strong opinion on that. And this may sound like me being a privileged asshole, and it probably is. But why is gentrification bad if it's investment in a community that improves that area, at least from the outside? That's how I feel. And I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm asking genuinely, what is the problem with... I know gentrification is a loaded word, but again, if you're investing in communities that are not necessarily fully built out at the current time, I don't understand why it's such a hot button issue. Echo Park, this is a good guy. Good Time 69. Tell me details on it. Am I Armenian? I'm not Armenian, but I have some Armenian close friends, including my former work partner. So I have some mad love for the Armenians. My Glendale episode was one of my favorite. But yeah, no, I'm not particularly Armenian though. Hawthorne, that's a good one. There's so many areas I need to cover. Hawthorne's up there. Plans to do a California's Gold. That's the dream. Look, I'm telling you, this year I have two goals. One is a podcast, which is coming up in February, so that's good. Hold on, the UPS guys here. Give me 1 sec, okay? Thank you, buddy. Have a great day, all right? Be good. So I want to have... The podcast is coming up through Odyssey. They're the people that own K-Rock, K-Earth 101, why am I blacking out? Jack FM. They're also one of the big podcast guys. They want to put me on a pilot run for a podcast. We're going to start. We have the meeting on Wednesday, by the way. Wish me luck, but it's rubber stamped, but we still got to sign it. So hopefully a podcast. But the ultimate goal for me is a show. And when I was researching that Huell Hauser episode recently, one important thing that I noticed was that nice shades, there it is that his show, and I know I hear, but it is similar. I mean, I guess I'm similar to him, and that, like, I'm not trying to be this slick produce. Like, one of my mantra is high quality content, low quality production. Now, look, I know the production can be improved, but I'm not a technology guy. I still use the TikTok software. I like the idea of just carrying around, not having to worry about editing, even though editing even on that is a bitch. But yes, I'd love to have a show, but nothing slick and crazy. I just want to go around this city and discover everything because there's so much cool stuff here. Okay, gentrification, erasing culture, people that have been there before. Thank you. I'm glad you hit on that. Who was that, by the way? That was, hold on, sorry. Boo 2, let's call it. Yeah, now what if you do it in a tasteful way, right? Like, I'm all about recognizing, original buildings, landmarks, first restaurant, oldest this, that stuff's important. Is there a way to invest in the neighborhoods and still maintain the character and the integrity? If there's an answer to that, that would be dope. I'd love to do it. Spawn Ranch, I want to get out there. Murphy Ranch, I want to get out there. There's so many good places. Looney, by the way, I'm in Studio City. Aren't you the guy? Happy Mon 123. Didn't I support cop lover and anti-homeless candidate Rick Caruso? No, Happy Mon. Happy Lemon. Sorry. I interviewed both candidates one-on-one. I asked them the same questions. I did not support either. I did not campaign this entire time. The one person I would go to bat for, two, Bob Hertzberg and Sam Yebri, both good people. They both lost, unfortunately. Jimmy Gomez, another guy. He's in the house. But I did not pick a mayor and I did not promote mayor. That's very important. I wanted to stay as objective as possible because I was the rare undecided voter. I grew up liberal. And in fact, I want to go back to this because this is a red button issue for me. So who was it? Lemon something. I want to address this because this is actually very important to me. Happy Lemon. Because I grew up liberal. My dad burned his draft card. My mom burned her bra. I was handing out money to the homeless out of my car as soon as I started driving. Liberal this, animal rights advocate. There was a homeless encampment near our house when we bought our first house. Sorry about that, guys. That kind of showed me a little bit different way. And towards the last 5 years, honestly, I've been drifting towards the center. So this was the first election ever that I was willing and truly objectively looking at both candidates. So sorry for spending so much time on that, everybody else, but I didn't like people that were saying, oh, you're going for Bass because I interviewed her. Oh, you're going for Caruso because you interviewed him. No, I wanted to do both because I was genuinely curious. The So Terrible. Joe, tell me more about the terrible, what's happening in Highland Park, because again, I want to know the cons of gentrification. I hear that culture one earlier was very important. Dude, Dad Rage Against the Machine, Michael Connolly. I just finished, I think that the new one is called Desert Storm or something like that. Stormy. I just finished last night. There was something very personal at the beginning of that book that kind of got to me and I had to put it down, but usually they're super page turners. It's crazy. And Michael Connolly's awesome, great LA guy. I don't usually read fiction. He's the one exception I make because it's so much about LA and a lot about the Valley, so it's very familiar. It's cool. Bass said they move homeless people to Palmdale, Lancaster. I didn't hear that, but I've heard certain things of that nature, not necessarily from her. Episode on the Salvadorians, man, there's so many good... Look, every culture, we all know this. I think everybody watching realizes this. The coolest thing about LA is the Jews, the Salvadorians, the Armenians, the blacks, the Koreans. I'm going to forget somebody. I'm not going to name them all, but you guys get what I'm talking about. They're strong communities. Thai people. LA has more people from specific countries from, I think it's 39 countries than any city outside of that country. What I mean is we have more Mexicans than any city outside of Mexico. I feel like Salvadorians were on that list. It's pretty cool, and that's something about LA. Joe, I see you killing the community. I think going back to the gentrification thing, doing it tastefully, recognizing the history, recognizing the the landmarks and the contributions that people are there, and somehow, I guess, doing it. I hear the argument about pushing them out. I don't know the mechanics on that. And that's interesting. Joe, going back to Italian community, it's funny because when I was in San Pedro, I saw there was a historic Little Italy, and I had no idea that LA had a Little Italy. So there was an Italian history. It's not a strong Italian community. Lizzie, great point. Low-income housing is super important. I do want to get to the Salvadorian community. Kobe 24, Omeza. Look, two things. One, on Kobe's birthday, I did one on the Kobe murals. There's a dope guy who tracks every Kobe mural in the world. There were 700 at last count, nearly 400 in LA. So I did an episode on the murals, but I do need to do an episode on Kobe. I call him LA's son. I don't know if that's true. That's the way I kind of feel about him, that we embraced him. Disney, 100 years. Bakersfield, Ronnie. I know Bakersfield's important. Bakersfield used to have a Dodgers minor league team, so it has a special place for me. I don't know enough about it. I'll leave it at that for right now. Looney, I wish this was my full-time job. I don't make any money on this. It's fun, and I get opportunities, and it's awesome exploring, but the goal is this year or very soon to make this a full-time job, because I would love to get up every day, be like, what LA in a minutes am I doing today? Because the thing for me is I try to do it in between my work stuff and, of course, my family, and I coach my son's baseball team, and I have dogs, which have been barking this whole time. Not sure if you guys can hear them. But I want to, wake up at 7 and just go do LA in a minute all day and not have timelines, and, that could be the real thing. That would be most of the fun point out there. LA in the mid-90s, lots of shit happened. Brad, we're not flooding here where I'm at yet. Josh, Monrovia, one of my favorite stats or facts that I learned in 2022. The original McDonald's, everybody thinks it's in San Bernardino. And that's kind of true. But Monrovia Airport was the location of the Airdrome, which was the McDonald's first restaurant. And they specialized in orange juice because, again, orange is West Coast health. But that was the seeds being planted for the McDonald's that we know. So it's Monrovia Airport, the Airdrome. I love it. I've never heard of Bill Preston, fat ones. I apologize. Washington State. I used to live in Seattle, Brad. Much love. Great city. Pacific Northwest is awesome. Javi King James, Downey is where the oldest existing McDonald's is. I do have a dope intro shot there, and I do want to actually do my like normal McDonald's episode from there, but that's not the first one. That's the oldest existing one. Beantown, I think you mean Boston. One of my closest friends, Tim, 97 Communications, is from Boston. Great guy. What was my major? Sort of discussed, John. Sort of discussed. I was class of 99, but actually graduated in 2000. I was sociology with a minor in business administration. John, first Denny's. That was one of the original episodes I did. Cool fact about Denny's. Denny's was originally known as Danny's Donuts. It was a donut shop before it became a coffee shop. So I think that's cool. Soul Ska, am I a Huell Hauser fan? I did an episode on Huell Hauser this past Saturday, January 7th. That was the 10-year anniversary of his death. R.I.P. Huell Hauser. Not just a fan, but that guy's a legend and truthfully kind of the roadmap of like what I love doing about Los Angeles and California. Storm Breeze, what a dope question. Lakers or Clippers? All right, this is the truth. Now, I went to UCLA. I'm also a USC fan. A lot of my UCLA alum friends are pissed about that, but I've always loved everything LA. So to address Lakers versus Clippers, here's the truth. Grew up going to the Forum, Showtime in the 80s. Loved the Lakers. But then my dad got season tickets in 92, 93 for the Clippers. That was like the first year they were good in LA. Danny Manning, they were coached by Larry Brown. They had Mark Jackson on that team. So I have a soft spot for the Clippers. I love all LA teams, not equally. Dodgers and UCLA Bruins are my two favorite. But dude, I'll root for the Clippers. I love the LA Kings. Ducks don't really count. Angels, I'm a little iffy on, to be honest with you. But Lakers, Clippers, even Trojans. Matthias Cueva, can I cover the Hollenbecks on the list? There's a lot of good stuff I want to cover. Riots, Loco Boy. I did one on the 92 riots. I want to say it was April 24th, the anniversary of. You better believe this year I'm going to be doing it too. All of us that were there remember the hell out of it. That was an insane time. My Koreatown piece also touched on the riots. Joe Ostorega, Angels don't count. I know. I'm often wondering about the OC teams. I seriously think about that. Soupy Live, what's up? Rams or Chargers? Duh, how did I forget football? Rams or Chargers? The answer for me is the Raiders. I grew up with Bo Jackson. That's one of my favorite athletes, if not my favorite athlete of all time. So I'm a Raiders guy. I like the Chargers, and they're in the playoffs. I'm rooting for them. Rams, I'm rooting for them in the Super Bowl. I mean, you represent L.A. By the way, SoFi Stadium, if you guys haven't been there, whether or not you like sports, that's a friggin' marvel of architecture. So beautiful, along with 6th Street Viaduct. One of the main new elements of Los Angeles that's just super amazing that I think in 100 years, people are going to look back on and be like, wow, that's an LA marvel. And I think it's important to recognize that. Azusa, Mike, here's the funny thing. I shot an intro for Azusa. This is what I want to know, honestly. I always heard it's everything from A to Z in the USA, Azusa, but some heard it's everything from A to Z in the USA, Azusa, but some heard it's everything from A to Z in the USA, Azusa, but some. Sorry guys, I'm back. Are you there? Holy, sorry. Bo Jackson was everything, Little Bow, big time. Azusa is cool, by the way. Azusa, I always know my in-laws, my wife's parents live in Rancho Cucamonga. It's like the halfway point. Oops, sorry. It's the halfway point for us. So I do like Azusa represent. Favorite taco spot in LA? Chico. That's a question I think about a lot because I don't want to say every, but most tacos while you're eating them from a taco truck or from a legit spot are so delicious. And there's no like upside. Well, there's a lot of upside because it's all upside because they're all fucking awesome. My favorite tacos, if I had to say right now, there's a taco truck off of Van Nuys on Burbank, like right near where the lowriders are on Sunday nights on the east side of Van Nuys. There's two. There's one on the west, one on the east. The one on the east side of Van Nuys on the south side of the street. I don't know what it's called. Apologies, but that's probably my favorite tacos right now. But frankly, if you're getting a taco truck in Los Angeles, it's dope. And props to LA Taco for doing their taco countdown. And here's why. I don't think there's many foodstuffs in many cities in the world where you'd have 64 candidates for the best, and all of them are pretty good. That's what's dope about LA, and that's LA Tacos. Guacamole on tacos, nah. Somebody puts it on, I'll eat it. I'm not going to complain, but dude, I like mine. I like radish, right? So I go carne asada, let's say, onions, cilantro, salsa, and then radish. That's the way I always handle it. Love it. LA County Fair. That's interesting. I was never a fair guy. True story. My parents lost me at a Renaissance fair when I was a kid. And I remember being in the security tent and my parents had to kind of like rescue me or whatever. So maybe that sort of traumatized me from fairs. Minor Major 7, horseless carriage. I passed by that yesterday with my wife and son. And I said, that's the oldest restaurant inside a car dealership. That was the first full-service restaurant inside a car dealership. That's some history. I believe it opened in 1953, which at the time I didn't think was like old enough to warrant its own episode, but it's cool. I love that part of the valley. Joe, what happened to the Italians here in Los Angeles? I did a historic Little Italy episode, put in a tournament camp, and their home took from during World War II. Wasn't that the Japanese? I don't know if you're trolling or what, but Josh Escandone, the Derby, badass history, need to do that. Maureen, it wasn't the Renaissance Fair. Maybe it was. I was like 7 or 8, so I'm not sure which one it was. I just know I got lost, and my wife kind of teases me. Favorite burrito in LA, Rosalio. Again, it's another. There's so many good burritos. I know I'm going to take some heat for this, but my current favorite, just because it's close and convenient and delicious, is the California burrito at Cactus Taqueria. I'm a sucker for the fries inside. I love the composition of it. Again, they give me unlimited radish. I'm such a fan. I just put the radish on. They have this dope habanero salsa. That's right now my favorite burrito, to tell you the truth. Minor Major 7. Country Folks, I believe, is gone. I remember that as a kid. I don't think it's still there. Joe, I did not know the Italians were also put in internment camps. I will look into that. John Duarte, guacamole on tacos. I've seen it at food trucks and otherwise. It's weird. Pita Pocket in Northridge. Yes, actually went there. Favorite eatery in Westwood Village, huh? It's funny because I went to school there, but we always left Westwood, and I always laughed how Westwood is not a college town. It's such a dope school, UCLA, but like everybody leaves Westwood. La Monica's was dope. Seppi's was super dope. If Seppi's is still there, I'll go with them just for the memories and the fun. Fried chicken in LA, Scorpio Mama. My absolute favorite is Pioneer. I was so glad to know Pioneer still existed. My dad and mom used to take me to Pioneer when I was a kid, and it was a special meal, that orange chicken, that super duper crunch, the orange bang, which by the way got famous because of Pioneer. They didn't invent it, but the guy who did invent it partnered with them. But Pioneer was always special to me, and I thought they all went out of business because of what happened in like the early 90s. I don't know if you guys know the story of Pioneer, but the guy who owned it, his name escapes me right now, bought the town of Blue Jay, which is near Lake Arrowhead. He bought an entire city, and he wanted to develop it into like the premier resort town, make it like Big Bear, like Arrowhead. And the people were pissed. And apparently somehow in that transaction, related to that transaction, he was cheating on his taxes. The IRS raided Pioneer one day. The IRS did a planned raid on all the Pioneers, emptied all the registers, shut down the business for good. Now, they got away with the tax. I mean, not got away with the tax fraud. They stayed open, but the business was never the same. This is Pioneer. They were bigger than KFC in LA. There was something like 300 locations. Anybody who grows up in LA or grew up in LA before the 90s remembers Pioneer. But anyway, they all basically got shut down. They tried to sell them off. He had all this tax debt. But there are 2 remaining in Boyle Heights and Bell Gardens, and they're still dope. I went to the one in Boyle Heights in May, and I did an episode about it. It's one of my favorite episodes. And again, shout out to my dad. Rest in peace. But he used to take me to Pioneer, and we used to love that fried chicken. So it's still my favorite fried chicken. It was so freaking awesome, and it's still freaking awesome. Go to Pioneer if those Pioneer chicken dudes are listening, because they have a good feed. Follow them. They're still doing it, and I know they're trying to expand, and I'm rooting for them. I need to have another Pioneer episode, but Pioneer is my favorite fried chicken. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I love Pioneer. That's dope. Laurel Canyon and Magnolia. What is that now? Hold on. Let me picture that. I believe that's a Popeyes, and Popeyes ended up buying most of the Pioneers. That's what it was. Tito Bito, history of the old recording studios in LA. That would be badass. All the acts, the legends that have like performed just everywhere in LA, recorded in LA. But listen, so guys, I'm going to run. I got to go back to work. Send me DMs, send me ideas. I want to know what you guys want me to cover. I have a shitload on deck. I do, but there's always good ideas. Thank you so much, by the way, everybody who's watching. I genuinely appreciate it. Lil Bao, the hat is seriously a place that I got to do. I'm going to get pastrami. I have a wager this weekend, Seahawks 49ers. I'm a Seahawks guy because I lived in Seattle from that instance. So the winner gets Johnny's pastrami, but I like the hat. Which one is more LA, Valley or Hollywood? Valley for sure, because the Valley has real people. And like, I know there's some flaws. There's some big time flaws in the Valley, but the Valley is a working class community that like has its own senses of pride and its own sense of region. I like Hollywood, but Hollywood's for trying to make it, or for tourism. And look, the Walk of Fame has dope history. The Sign has dope history. 100th anniversary of the Sign this year, by the way. But the Valley to me is a real LA. I don't know if I could say that about Hollywood. I love Hollywood though. So just yeah, Hollywood's for like going to and visiting. But by the way, Chuco, San Fernando Valley or San Gabriel Valley, it's a really good point. Personally, I'm talking about San Fernando Valley, which is LA City. San Gabriel Valley is part of LA County. It is awesome, legit. Rosemead, all those areas need much love. I have undercovered that area, even including like Pasadena, the high profile areas. I got to get it out there. That's one of my resolutions or plans this year, is to cover more San Gabriel Valley for sure. Hot Wheels In-N-Out pepper shortage. I got to look into that. Any shortage at In-N-Out is notable. Pete, thank you for the shout out. But guys, listen, wish me luck on this podcast meeting. I'm going tomorrow or Wednesday. Hopefully sign the deal with Odyssey. It would be dope. In a minute. Origin Stories, LA in a minute. Let's talk about Barney's Beanery, Mr. Hag, has some good history. It's very old and it's legit, but it started in Berkeley, which kind of threw me off and made me not necessarily want to do a full episode on it. There's also a sign controversy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that from the 60s. That sort of had me feeling a little bit uncomfortable on the Barney's Beanery, just to be fully honest with you. Pinche's Tacos is dope. Trucker Dave, shout out. Santa Anita Racetrack. I'm seeing you, Ian. I'm seeing you. Great idea. San Gabriel Valley. And there's so much stuff. You know what I want to cover out there is the fucking parrots. Like the wild parrots. And it's funny because I just wrapped up an episode today on the Busch Gardens. It's the Budweiser, the Anheuser-Busch factory. Busch Gardens used to be one of the major amusement parks in Los Angeles, which is crazy. And a lot of people say that the wild parrots in San Gabriel Valley actually came from there. So I need to look into that. Somebody said Raging Waters. Not a joke. I went there for every birthday. My parents let me take 2 friends to Raging Waters for my 11th through 15th birthday. At the time, I probably would have told you it's my favorite place on earth. They have, I want to say, a 50th anniversary coming up this year. They did contact me. We are going to do a collaboration. I fucking love Raging Waters. Like, some great childhood memories. Jungle Land, there's a lion farm I got to cover in El Monte. Astro Burger is a good idea. San Gabriel Grapevine. These are all awesome. Guys, thank you so much. Literally, thank you. It was a good year last year. I want to make a good year this year. If I can plug YouTube, please subscribe to me on YouTube. It's super helpful. I need 4,000 lifetime hours watched to start making money there. I'm at 3,600. I know people don't want to leave the platforms. I get it. TikTok, Instagram, it's all over, blah, blah, blah. There are exclusives on YouTube. I've actually put other TikTok lives on there, longer form interviews, because if you notice, my stuff's always 3 minutes or less, but a subscription to YouTube would be super awesome. It's helpful because I want to start making some money on this and eventually do it full time. Casa Vega represent. Shout out to the Vega family. Christy Vega, one of the coolest people I know. Her son played soccer with my son, and they're a really nice family. That's Valley Legendary Institution. I have a collabo coming up with them. It's supposed to be this month or next, because they're part of the family that owns the restaurant that invented the Caesar salad. So I think that's kind of cool, invented the Caesar salad. Just so you guys know, I will also be on a game show tomorrow, Portal 1. It's tiny. It's like app only, but it's going to be my first appearance for that. Wednesday, podcast meeting. Thursday, Beverly Hills Speedway. By the way, anybody who's interested in Beverly Hills, 3/4 of Beverly Hills used to be a racetrack. What? Beverly Hills was a fucking racetrack, and it was the fastest racetrack in the world at that point. So I'm going to film that episode Thursday. Friday, I'm doing El Cholo, if anybody knows that. El Cholo is one of the oldest restaurants one of the oldest Mexican restaurants in Los Angeles. Good history. There's just a feature in the New York Times which kind of blew up my spot. I'm not trying to coattail them. No disrespect to New York Times, but El Cholo is worth an episode, so you see that coming up. Soupy, I do want to do statewide. I love LA so much. I got to focus on LA. I want to do LA. That's the most important thing. But guys, literally, thank you so much. Somebody asked about Caltech. Isabella, much love. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully I go live again soon. If somebody could tell me, somebody send me a DM. On Instagram, DMs go through. TikTok, they don't always go through. Somebody could DM me and tell me how to have other people on. I really want to do that. So if there's a way to do that, that would be super awesome. Let me know. I'm super interested. What's up, Uncovering California? Literal good friends, good content. Shout out to those guys. California Uncovered / Uncovering California. But they're really good doing a California version of this. Invite TK. It's funny. TK and I have had some like DM type conversations. Nothing really came out of it. Love that. Where's John? John 314. Mijares. That is the oldest long-standing Mexican restaurant in Los Angeles. I do want to do an episode on that. That was a great call. Brewy Louie. I got to give my guy Brewy Louie a huge shout out. Not only did he plant the seed for the egg episode, if you guys have noticed the egg shortage and the egg prices are nuts, that's because of Brewy Louie. Dope dude. Also works for the Postal Service. I'd like to give a shout out to the Postal Service for delivering the mail in this kind of weather, but that you could get a letter from San Diego to Maine for like 60 cents always kind of blew my mind. But guys, thank you. I appreciate you. Love. Thank you for coming on. It's been a minute.